Let's wait for the cameraman to get it set up. This is the legendary Bobby Shakes. For those of you that don't know, let's get his headphones off the floor. There you go. All right, guys. So first and foremost, just want to thank everyone for coming out. I know a lot of folks ask, like, why are you guys doing this? But the reality is, guys, my team members and I, we've been very successful in real estate. Started off as brokers, got into construction, got into flipping. Now we're doing lending, and we really have an office and a team that's committed to helping folks grow. And that's really the why. We want to help people grow, and we don't believe that you should have to pay to learn. And so this is our way of giving back to the community, giving back to folks. I know for me, when I first got into real estate, there was one person in particular who really took me under their wing and allowed me to grow and mentor me to help me grow and become the successful real estate entrepreneur that I am today. And so we want to create an environment where we share information, but more importantly, you guys are able to connect with folks who can help you wherever you are in your real estate and really help you start to make money on your terms. I have a lot of my fellow team members here tonight. If you guys want to raise your hands, the Boston Trust Realty Group team, the BRF team, Carl, stop hiding. Carl's trying to hide behind folks over here. Jeff, Julian, we got some great guys here. So please feel free to look around. These are guys that can definitely be a resource to you as you grow your real estate business. And I got my colleague here, Tony, of course, partner in crime on a lot of these deals. We've done flips together. This is one that he did on his own, and so great job, Tony. I really love the way the finishes came out.
Thank you.
And I know you put it on. You've had a lot of attention, a lot of eyes. Is it under agreement yet?
I got a offer above asking price.
Congratulations, about to be under. Congratulations, man.
Yes.
Good stuff. That's less than a week.
Less than a week.
Less than a week,
I
guys.
haven't accepted anything yet,
Right.
so you guys know. I'm taking more offers.
Yep, excellent, guys. So, the format today is going to be more like a podcast. So I'm going to interview Tony, just asking some key questions that I think a lot of investors have, just so that, we can cover a lot of the basics. And then from there, we'll open it up for questions, specific to where you guys are at and questions you have about the process. So first and foremost, guys, one of the big things everybody wants to know is how to find deals. How to find deals where there's equity, where there's value. So Tony, you want to elaborate on how this deal was found?
Sure. So this deal was found by my team member, Robert Nichols, and his wholesale team. And then Robert came to me and presented me this great opportunity. And I came in and I snatched it. So I didn't wait for long. I submitted an offer that same day and locked it down.
Absolutely. And Tony was on it because, this thing would have gone quick. I mean, there were a lot of people who wanted it, but obviously he's one of my team members. And I said, absolutely, Tony, you can have it. He came at a number that made sense for everyone involved on my side of it. And it was a win-win at the end of the day. The other piece to it is a lot of people want to know what list this was on. Like, if you wanted to prospect for a deal like this house was a probate house. So this deal would have come through if you were looking or tracking probates. That's how you would have found a home like this in this case. So we do a lot of pre-foreclosure marketing, probate marketing, and other ways. Yep. And I think, one of my wholesale team members is back there. He just snuck in the room here too. But definitely, that's how you find deals and how you prospect. So excellent. So second question, how did you fund this deal?
So I funded this project with the BRF team, which is Robert Nichols and his team. They got me an awesome rate. I paid a decent amount of points, and very happy. Yeah.
Excellent, guys. So hard money, we offer that too, as I mentioned before. And so the big thing you want to do, I think the most important thing, Tony, and let me know if you agree with this, is the ratio, 70% rule. I know we talked about this last time. I have a YouTube video up about it, what the 70% rule is. A lot of you guys familiar with the 70% rule? I see some yeses, I see some nos. You want to explain what it is real quick?
So the 70% rule is speaking about the 70% of the appraised value of the home. So let me give you a very simple example. So if the house is worth $100,000 once the work is all done, the hard money lender will fund you 70% of that, which would be $70,000.
Correct. So that $70K is between your acquisition price and your renovation budget. Yep. And it's honestly a ratio that allows you to go into a flip pretty much insulated and protected from market conditions that change. The good thing about real estate, the market doesn't move really fast, it moves very slow. So the key is that you want to move faster than the market with getting your project done. So if you get it done in 2 to 3 months, you're positioning yourself for success. You start going 4 months, 6 months, up to a year, that could be a totally different market by the time you finish, and you may be out of luck because you lost all your equity in that time frame. So especially if you're using hard money, you have to be careful with making sure you hit the time frame and get it done as quickly as possible. Speed is the name of the game, guys. Third thing, definitely want to talk about, and it's pretty obvious, but I definitely want your take on this. What was the hardest part about this project? I know we're in the finish stage, but what was the hardest part about the project now that you're kind of closer to the end versus the beginning?
Honestly, guys, this house is very special because I I call this project the Hoarder's Paradise. The reason why I call it the Hoarder's Paradise is because when I came here the very first time, I couldn't even get into the house because there was so much trash. When I say trash, I'm talking about loads and loads of trash. So I would say that the trash was up to here, and I had to literally walk on top of the trash to actually view the entire house. Getting rid of the trash was probably the most difficult part. Probably used up to like 11 dumpsters to remove all of the trash.
11 dumpsters, guys.
Big dumpsters.
11 30-yard dumpsters.
11 30-yard dumpsters.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I wish we had something to blow it up so you guys literally
Yeah.
could see. He's not exaggerating. Like, getting in the back door, you had to like literally use all your strength, muscle. I almost broke the door trying to get in here, just pushing the trash out of the way. And one of the big question marks I had when we kind of walked through it preliminarily is what kind of floors were under here. And so, because we didn't know if it was hardwood floors, literally you could not see the floor.
Couldn't see the floor.
This is the second property I've ever seen. So, second worst house I've seen. I saw one that was really bad. I'll just share a quick story. It's a lady, she kind of had, definitely had a lot going on, and she was a hoarder to another level. Literally, she was sleeping on a mattress that was propped up by trash. Like, that was her bed. And she called all the mice that used to run through the house her pets. So she'd feed the mice, grab them, pet them. Like, she had some other stuff going on mentally, to be honest with you guys. So that was the roughest one I saw. And I share that story just to kind of let you guys know kind of the stuff you encounter with these distress sales. I mean, the other kind of crazy part of the story was the way she used the bathroom because she couldn't get to the bathroom. Buckets all over the house. Bottles of urine, like stuff that you never think about, guys. So you got to have a strong stomach if you want to be a flipper. Especially if you want the real good deals.
100%.
You don't want that stuff to scare you away from the value, because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. But you definitely have to be mentally prepared for all types of crazy stuff that we've seen in some of these houses. When it comes to that. Yeah, I guess the last question I have for you, Tony, relative to the project, what advice would you give to young flippers just getting started? That you think you wish someone would have told you when you first got into it.
Great question, Robert. So I would say this, and guys, it's going to be really hard, but do not fall in love with the property. Do not fall in love with the property. The reason is simple. If you fall in love with the property, you're going to overspend on your budget. You're going to overspend. And if you overspend, you're actually taking away from your potential profit. So always try to have a mindset of, all right, I'm going to do as much as possible that makes sense, and make sure that you're going to be profitable. Okay, so do not become emotionally attached to the property. Put in the right amount of work and the right finishes so that you can yield a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because as a lender, guys, like recently I have a very experienced fix and flipper. He's been in the business about 10 years, and he had a partnership, and the group kind of broke down, and he branched off on his own. And his partner really was the one keeping his emotions in check. And he didn't realize it until he got a little too deep into a project and just went way too far with the scope of work and really got hurt and ended up losing the property. And now he's kind of evaluating if he's going to stay in the business or not and try to figure some things out. But it can happen to anybody. And so, like, it's really, really important that you look at it as an asset. You look at the numbers. You look at it as an opportunity to build wealth, to get liquidity, to make some money for yourself versus falling in love. I mean, we had some deals with some other folks involved where literally at the last walkthrough of the house, tears were shed. Like, this house is so amazing. And this is someone who was investing in the deal. And, they did not want to sell the house. It was like the greatest thing they ever seen. I'm like, brother, come on, man. We got to move on. We got to make this money. We got to keep going. And so, it's very important. Anything else, Tony? Your favorite parts of the house or favorite part about this project you want to share?
Fireplace right there.
There we go.
Nice.
Love the stone. Yep.
I love the fireplace, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. So, with that said, guys, I was talking to a couple of the guys I know here, earlier tonight about the next project we go to is going to be something that's a little bit more raw, studs out, because we don't want this to feel like HGTV, because I feel like on HGTV there's a lot of times you see the fantasy of flipping, you see the glamorous side of flipping, but guys, it's a really hard business. It's a lot of work, and there are a lot of factors you have to control step by step and really be disciplined in your process and your approach to doing these deals. And so, we really want to showcase kind of the middle of a project. And I'll be honest, Tony, I was hoping that this was going to be in the middle stages, but you got it done so quick. By the time the meetup came, he's like, I'm almost done. I'm wrapping up. Other than the heat, which we all could feel, I appreciate you guys toughing it out in the cold. I think this one's a wrap.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
How long did it take you to get this for?
Approximately about 3.5 months. And frankly, I think we could have been done in 2.5 months, but things happen.
That trash, man. 11
trash.
dumpsters, 30
Yeah.
yarders. If you guys don't know what a 30 yarder looks like, it's serious.
It's serious.
And that tells you how much stuff was in here. I mean, that alone is going to run you almost $8,000 of trash removal. And that's just on the dumpsters, guys.
$8,000.
$8,000 worth of dumpsters right there.
Just to remove all of the trash.
Yep. That's not the labor. That's not the manpower. That's literally just
$8,000.
getting the dumpster, having to drop it in the yard, and having it picked up. So, definitely something to keep in mind. Anything else you want to add, or you want to open it up to questions?
Let's open up.
Let's open it up to questions, guys.
Were you able to salvage any of that garbage? I know I've heard
Whew.
you guys talk about picking through the stuff and how a yard sale or
Well, I'll say this. Unfortunately, she did not have materials. She had a lot of her personal belongings and
Knickknacks.
family looms and knickknacks, so we essentially trashed everything.
But well, I will add though. I know you guys put a lot of stuff on the curbside, and the
Yep.
neighbors were coming through and having a field day out
That's
there.
true.
So,
Absolutely
I mean,
true.
don't forget that.
Yeah,
there
that's
wasn't
true.
much value here. We did have one flip Tony and I actually did together years ago, and I don't know if you remember this one, Davidson.
Which one? Yes.
And this is why, guys, this is an important lesson I learned the hard way. That was probably like 2011. I learned this the hard way, so don't let this happen to you. We had a similar house, not as bad as this, but it was a hoarder, and we had hired some day laborers. Let's just call it that. I ain't gonna say they came from Home Depot's parking lot, but we hired some day laborers, which we don't do anymore. It was a different time. We were just starting out and figuring things out. And so two of the guys we hired, they went for lunch and they never came back.
Never came back.
I'm like, what happened? You guys, these guys went for lunch. Like, our work stopped. We're like, what's going on? So one of the other guys who works with us, he's like, man, they found a whole lot of money and they took off. And guess
Dig
what?
out.
We weren't there to supervise, to oversee it, and there was no one there really supervising at that time. And so this is why when you're flipping, you want to make sure you have someone there, if you're there yourself, to make sure that never happens to you. For all we know, they could have found $1 million. And we didn't make
That
$1
was
million
our
on that
$1 million.
flip. I can tell you that much. So, definitely make sure you're there. So I'm glad you asked that question. And a lot of times with the hoarders, a lot of it's junk, but occasionally you will find some things of value. We have people leave cars, boats, all kinds of stuff. Usually not in working order, but you can kind of salvage something and maybe make a couple bucks. But the real money's in the project itself. Yep.
I was going to ask how you got your shoe in the door in real estate. Like, did you find deals for other people, or did you just...
Very good question. Very good question. I'll tell you how I started, and Tony, you can share how you started.
Sure.
So I started as a real estate agent, guys. I take that back. I bought my first property in 2004 when I was 23 years old. So, the market was different back then. Anyone could get a loan. It's not like that anymore, thankfully, because the house I bought was terrible. It was not a good buy. But nonetheless, I started off as an investor, and literally, guys, I just read a book. And the book was like, use OPM, use everything you can, just get a house. And so I successfully did that, but it was not the healthiest way to buy. And this is another reason why I have these types of meetups, so people can do it the right way. Because there is a right way and there's a wrong way. And so that's one of the things, I think is super important. So from there, the agent who helped me buy a house, she did such a terrible job that I'm like, you know what, if she made like $15,000 on the deal. I'm like, she did that horrible job and made $15K, I'm in the wrong line of work. And at the time I was working in corporate for a supermarket company. And so that inspired me to get my real estate license. And that was really kind of when I got going in real estate a year later. And started kind of doing deals as an agent. My first client is actually right here in this room. You're looking at him right here. This is the first person I ever helped buy a house. Yeah, back, what year was that? That was
2005.
05, right?
05.
Same year, yeah, so 05. And, so from there, kind of kept going. And eventually I had the opportunity to go work for a new construction company. And that's kind of how I got into the construction side and started to have the confidence and build a team to be able to start doing flips and projects and things of that nature. But yeah, basically started as a buy and hold guy, not really knowing what I was doing, became a really experienced agent, and then transitioned to new construction. And then from there, just kind of started diversifying the business quite a bit. Yep, Tony?
So for myself, I got into real estate in 2009. I got into real estate because of Robert, because I've known Robert since I was about 15 years old. So
Went to high school together.
Yep. So he told me, hey, I'm making a lot of money. And I'm like, I want to make a lot of money. So I got my license, and I wasn't making any money. But fast forward, I learned, and Robert helped me grow, and then I became more experienced. And I did buy my house back in 2005 as well, but in terms of the real estate side, I was mentored by Robert. So essentially helping the buyers, sellers, flips, I was guided through him. So fast forward to today, That's essentially it, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, guys, like I know online there's a lot of folks who talk about you don't need a real estate license to get into real estate, which is true. But I can tell you this, in this market, wholesaling it works, but it's a lot better if you have a license or you're teamed up with a team that's licensed, because there's a lot of deals and a lot of very educated sellers. If you've ever tried any wholesaling up here, they'll tell you when you throw those lowball numbers to them, they're shutting it down. They're not hearing it. They're like, nah, my house is worth 100,000 more. You trying to steal my house, and then you offend them, and then they're out of there. And so having a license is an asset in this market. I know there's markets around the country where you can successfully wholesale without it, but definitely I think that that's a big piece that gets missed by a lot of gurus on YouTube and different guys out there saying you don't need to have a real estate license. In this market, I really advocate for having it or even being affiliated with someone who does. Yep, so it'll make you definitely stronger. Yep. Next question.
I want to know how you developed the construction budget and how you ended up in the final versus your budget.
Great question. So the process itself took some time because I had to go through different crews of guys to this current group now. So not all contractors are good. The key is to find the right team that you trust, that will charge you a fair amount, and that could execute at the end of the day. And in terms of the budget itself, we are essentially right at the number. So we really didn't go over at all. So
that's a blessing.
It is.
That's not what you hear every day.
Exactly. And again, that's because of the team.
Correct.
So I tend to stay with my core group. So if I have a appraiser, I will call that appraiser to appraise another home for me. If I have a plumber, I use the same plumber. If I'm using a tax accountant, I'm using the same guy. So, I try to keep the same group of people with me with every flip.
And as far as I'm concerned, and this is one of the things I'm big on, you want to build an all-star team. And when I say that, it starts like anytime you want to invest in real estate, you have to be able to evaluate a deal. And the best person to contact to be able to do that is a realtor or a real estate agent in the local market that understands how it works and understands it's going to give you a real number on what you can expect to sell the property for. Because the way real estate investing works, especially fix and flipping, is reverse engineered. You start with the ARV, and then you work backwards from that number, and that dictates how much you can end up paying on the property. So having an all-star realtor or agent on your team, having an all-star contractor is going to give you a real estimate, not something that, bait and switch to get, just get the job and then start saying, oh, I missed this, I missed that, and then now you're stuck, with having to pay more or being abandoned, which is not a good place to be. And then from there, you can calculate, okay, based on the 70% rule, I can pay this amount because I took the ARV, deducted the cost to fix it, and then this is what's left. And this is what I can pay for the property. And this is why having the right team is so expensive. And it's trial and error over the years. I mean, I had several teams for many years, and then, we kind of switch and things happen and things change. But the key is having a team you can trust. And once you build that rapport and trust, you still have to keep them honest. So I do get bids from other guys just to make sure that I'm keeping them honest. Because one thing I'll say, if you make them too comfortable, your pricing will just keep going up and up and up and up. Because now they know they got the business, they don't feel like they have to compete. So that's a really important piece as well. You got to keep them honest simultaneously. Yep.
Can you talk about the numbers, like how much it costs to acquire the property with the hard money, how much you actually put into it to get it to where it's at now, and how much you anticipate to get for it?
So paid approximately around $250 for the house. In terms of the rental costs, I would say approximately about 85 to 90 grand.
And then the anticipated ARV, what was your ARV based on?
My ARV was based on 475
But
at the time.
I think it's going for more than that on this
Right
one.
now,
Yeah.
it's actually much higher because the market is appreciating and there's low inventory, which is working to my favor.
Correct.
So I'm guessing that the ARV is probably 500 now.
Right, and that's something to note, guys. So market conditions change, and we're in an interesting place in the Boston market. So this is like really, really good local advice that you guys can kind of take with you. So a lot of the projects, a lot of the buy-ins, a lot of the activities happen in multifamily sales, and a lot of new construction development of multifamilies that are actually condos. And so there's been a ton of investment in condos, and what's happening is there aren't as many single families that are renovated and cleaned up because everyone's condo. And so single families, there's actually a shortage of them in communities like this, Mattapan, Roxbury, a lot of the pocket markets outside of the city center. So single families, I think there's still a higher ceiling for them to reach, whereas condos, I feel like we're kind of at the top and kind of trending somewhat down. Nothing crazy, but it is starting to adjust down slightly versus single families are still on the rise. So that's something to keep in mind if you're ever evaluating any deals. It's surprising if you look at what's sold, and then if you look at what's under agreement and on the market, and you see it higher than the sales comp, especially under agreement, that tells you the market's upwardly trending, and that's what we're seeing with singles. There's really not a lot of them if you try to look for them.
Oh, okay. Question. So when you guys actually renovate and fix a house, how do you choose between wholesaling it or doing a rental? If you choose to do it.
Oh, well, ultimately, it just comes down to your strategy. For me, this house ideally would not be a good rental for me because the return, the rate of return is not there for me. So for me, I would rather just fix it up and sell it and just move on. So.
Yeah, and honestly, it's all about the numbers. Like in an ideal world, I'd love to hold every property I buy, but the way we have to buy in now, we're buying in at price points where the only exit that makes sense is to flip it for a profit. Now, the downside to that is the taxation. So keep that in mind. Uncle Sam, they're waiting. They can't wait. They're salivating for you to sell that house because they get a pretty good clip of your money in this market. It's about 35% in this state. And so that's something you have to factor in, right? This is why buying, holding, renovating, and refining is the ideal play. But when it comes to like single families, you just have to factor in your tax liability into your number so you know what you're walking home away with is a real number after taxes. Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, because I had read in Rich Dad Poor Dad that he flipped a small property and put it in some kind of exchange fund that's tax deferred and used that to invest into a larger property. Is that something that you can still do today?
So that's 1031 exchange laws. So 1031 exchanges actually don't work for short-term flips, unfortunately. Trust me, it'd be amazing if it did. So therefore, buy and hold investments. Now, if you buy and hold and you can show you rented the property out and have leases and everything, proving that the intention was to lease but you decided to sell, then you can leverage a 1031 exchange. But fix and flips like this, vacant, quick turnover, it's very hard to prove that it was a rental property in such a short window of time. So yeah, it doesn't apply, unfortunately. Trust me, I've talked to 1031 consultants to try to make sure, because the more you can save on the tax side, the better at the end of the day. Yes?
Was it always a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, or did you guys add a bathroom as part of the rent?
So it was actually a 1.5 bath and 3 beds.
You turned it into a full bath.
And then I turned that into a full bath, so now it's 2 full baths. Yeah.
So a quick question now for the tax advantages and things like that. Like I know you mentioned the market changes a lot. So you guys don't play around with like holding a property more than a year just to get that tax advantage?
Even if because it's a flip and not a rental, unfortunately it doesn't apply. Okay. Yeah, because of that. Yeah, so because it's flipped, it's really hard to prove, that it was in a rental investment. Yeah, and holding it for a year, depending on how your finance is structured, is eating into your profit because you're paying interest too. So you got to keep that in mind. So the taxes will get you, the interest will get you, and this is why you got to move quick. It's like hot potato. Just keep moving. Yep. Can't hold on to it too long. Definitely. Any other questions, guys? Andy.
What's the thought process you use to determine just about how much money to spend on rehab?
That's a great question, and the best way to answer it is it just depends on the market, the location, and your budget, So for this particular house, I would say that the finishes are pretty good. I did not over-invest in the finishes because I would not be getting nothing in return if I was to overspend. Okay, so for this house in Mattapan, let's say I had a budget for the finishes, let's say $2,000, versus a house in Newton, I'd probably be spending $10,000. So location, budget.
Yeah, you're
those
kind of capped.
Factors.
Right, and the thing is to keep in mind, guys, you're kind of capped by that 70% rule, Andy, because if you want to be competitive and make your offer the best you can make it to be competitive, and it's a very competitive market. You guys agree? Anyone who's out here looking for flips, looking at properties, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of bidding wars, a lot of people getting in, even in the off-market world. And so you're really capped at the metrics. If you want to be competitive, you'll take it all the way up to the 70% rule, inclusive of your rehab budget, just to be competitive. But yeah, and then you sometimes you have to try to work with that number. And sometimes you end up squeezing it a little bit. You go up to 75% to make it work, you know, to be able to do the project and get to the right scope in the end.
Can you just like explain the 70% rule again? I didn't really get it.
Sure. So there's a YouTube video out there, guys, where I really break it down. So check it out. You know, at Robert Nichols, YouTube/Robert L. Nichols, I believe, or Robert Nichols is easy to find. And then, you know, in relation to what it is basically when you take what the property is going to be worth when you're done with the project, the ARV, the after repair value, multiply that by 70. So let's say this house was going to sell for $100,000 in the end. Multiply that by 0.7, which will give you 70% of 100,000, which is $70,000. If my rehab budget was going to be 20,000, I could spend a max of 50,000 for this house, obeying that rule. Does that make sense?
It's what you offer.
That's what I offer, correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
So you offer 70, and then you have.
Well, 70, I'd offer 50. If I knew I'd get my contractor in here first and get an estimate. I'm a licensed contractor myself. You know, I only do my own projects, but so I can, you know, run my numbers. But based on whatever my numbers come to for the renovations, I deduct that from the 70% rule number, that 70% number, and whatever's left is what I offer.
Oh, so you want to make 30%.
Correct. You want to have a 30% cushion. You don't always make 30% because you got to remember, you got your realtor commissions off the top. So 5%, you're already at 25 if you're paying 5. You're at 26 if you're paying 4. And then, you know, just everything else that comes up, your carrying costs and everything. So your margin in the end, you may make 10% to 15% depending on the deal. Yep, but that's why that 30% cushion is important because you got to have a buffer there to be able to carry a lot of that other expense.
Right.
Yep, and I think a lot of people don't talk about that enough. Yep.
Can you talk more about for the hard money option? Can you talk more about like the process and like timeline and what like I would need to think about and consider if I were to go that route?
Sure, I'll take that one. So hard money, guys, as you guys know, I'm a hard money lender. The name of the company is Boston Realty Funding, bostonrealtyfunding.com. Go check it out. I got my team member Carl here tonight. I got Rob Blocker in the back as well. A couple guys here who also is on lending with me. So with that said, guys, you need 20% down. That's the first thing. As far as the 20% goes, that's just towards your down payment. In addition to that, you need 3 points. So that's your fee to get the money. People say, what's points? It's 3%. So 20% down plus another 3%, that's your fee to get access to the money. And then your closing costs, which typically for a house like this will run you anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. So all in, you're going to need about 25% to be safe towards your down payment. Now, the beautiful thing about hard money, it's not credit-based. And that's why people use it for houses like this. You bring a fix and flip to a bank and you're a beginner, even somewhat experienced, you know, intermediate, they don't want to talk to you. It's too much risk. Banks are all about risk aversion and you know, anything that incites risk, they want no part of it. They want stability. They want that buy and hold piece. They want the buy and hold portfolio, not the fix and flip portfolio. And so that's why hard money exists and there's a need for it. It's a niche market, but a lot of people need it. And it really is a tool that can help you grow because it's not based on credit. It's not based on experience. It's really based on the asset value. And if the property meets the 70% rule, a hard money lender will finance it all day. And you know, there's some cases, if you're getting something at 50% of the value, you're able to even get better terms and put a much lower down payment down as well. So definitely some things to think about. Does that answer the question? Excellent. Yes.
You incorporate the 35% tax in the 70% rule?
It is, correct. So you got to remember, though, that 35% is off of your gross, what you make. So if you make something, obviously, if you make 100,000, you take the 35, you're at 65, you know, so you already know that going into it. So whatever you're making, you kind of factor in that in. If you're making 50, now you know you're keeping 32,000. You see what I'm saying? So regardless of the tax, you know, that shouldn't discourage you, but you should be educated and knowledgeable about it so that you're not like, I'm rich, going to the casino trying to double up. You ain't doubling up, man. You better put that tax money to the side because Uncle Sam will come knocking at your door to get it. And you don't want that. So, yeah, no, definitely, you want to work with the real money you make, not the money that is really not truly yours to keep in the end.
So do you keep that, like you get it in whole and then you have to save it for like when you
Well, typically, you actually you can send it as you make. You can send when you're self-employed, you don't have to wait to file your taxes. You can just send that money in because it's already withheld from your paycheck if you're working 9 to 5 and you're on a W-2. So you can actually send it. I wish, is Hughes here tonight?
No.
So we have a tax accountant on our team as well. He was here last time, but he's missing out. Next time, we'll make sure he's here next time, but he could explain better. But yeah, you definitely can file paperwork and then send it in as you make it. Any other questions, guys?
I got one.
Yes.
So like doing the decisions for all the finishes and everything? Is that the contractor? Is it you? You have the designer on your team? Like, how does that work?
It's me. It's
Yep.
me. Well, so guys, I'll say the biggest advantage that I have is I've been working with buyers since 2009. And through that experience, I worked with a lot of first-time home buyers, and I've grown to learn what they want and what they expect. And another factor is, again, is location. And I know that in this particular location, a certain finish would really make it enticing in terms of oohs and ahs and wanting to put in an offer. So.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, Donna. So my wife, I don't know if she's here, she's somewhere around, but she's my designer. So like on our team, she does all the design, all the finish work. But to your point, Tony, you really, and that's one of the things, like we're doing some flips in some new markets right now. We got a couple projects going on. And one of the things I did was kind of look at what the taste for those buyers were so that we didn't overinvest. To Andy's point earlier, you know, you want to invest in line with where you're going to get the return in that market. So looking at previous comps, and there's a lot of rehabs and a lot of flips that have happened in the last year, you can look and see what's selling for what and look at the finishes and try to match some of the same quality, maybe go a little bit above it, but don't go below it. If you want to try to, you know, equal what they got as far as the sales price. But yeah, looking at comps and the fact that you have that body of work working with buyers over the last 10 years, you know what they like. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, no, that's really important, guys.
So for someone that was to bring you a deal,
Yes.
would you recommend them to speak to the owner of the house first and see if they can work some type of deal and then they can wholesale it to you? Or would you rather that person show you the house and show you just basically the property to see
Right.
if you want to invest in that?
So we work with a lot of deal finders. So one of the, like, ideally I like to be involved from the beginning. And we can work out a structure as far as like what your piece would be on it. And then we can negotiate with the owner knowing like you're going to get this percentage or you're going to get this fixed amount. So that, you know, you're protected, you're good to go, and then we can really work the owner and try to find their pain points, their motivations, and see what we can do to put something together that makes sense. Yep. Carl.
So in regards to the 10 years experience that you have working with buyers, do you tailor your flip towards first-time home buyers, or do you do it overall and anybody can come in and put an offer in?
For me personally, I tailor to the first-time home buyers because those folks are the ones that will pay top dollar for the finished product. So.
Yeah, and just so you guys know why, first-time home buyers, guys, the biggest advantage they have in buying properties, they can buy a home and only put down 3.5%. So anyone out here is trying to get into the game and you want to be an investor, get that first. I was talking to Isaac yesterday about this, but get your first property, 3 or 4 family. You're able to put down 3.5%. You know, cash flow, and that's really going to be your wealth building strategy. Take advantage of it. And so like homes like this are single families. While this is a great house for a lot of families just looking to get their first home, I recommend you guys look to be wealth builders first and get a multi, because that 3.5% buy, I mean, if I want to buy the same house as you as a multi, I have to put down 20% because I own multiple properties. So take advantage of it. Really take advantage of it.
0%.
And then he's going through NACA, right, which is 0% down. You can use your down payment money to buy down your rates. So that's a great program for first-time home buyers as well. But yeah, that's definitely something you guys can look into. We have enough time to take 2 more questions, guys.
How do you manage?
Sorry.
How do you manage the scope and making sure that it doesn't creep to a point where it's outside of your budget? You said with this project you're at budget.
Yep.
But in general, how do you make sure that the scope stays at the scope, and how do you deal with unanticipated things that come up on the project?
So in terms of my process, in terms of the scope, I stay on pace, and I try not to get out of the scope in terms of finishes, in terms of trying to add space, maybe a additional bathroom. However, with every flip, you're going to find unforeseen things. Let's say you have to replace a plumbing stack that you thought was working, but you turn on the water and then it's leaking. You're going to have to replace that stack because it's leaking, right? So those are things that you can't avoid. So that would be a additional expense. But other than that, I try not to like deviate from that plan.
Buffers into the budget to account for
I always have a reserve. Normally you want to have like between a 10 to 20% reserve, just in case. But I really don't really go above it. Yeah.
Yeah, one area you can save especially for unforeseen circumstances, like especially if you're new, like guys like us, we have reserves, we have capital, we can get back into the deal if we go over. But like if you're just starting out, be careful with your finishes. I mean, I think a lot of you guys can relate to that who've been flipping. I know you've been an experienced flipper too, Josue, but the finishes is where you can kind of cheat back. Instead of having that fancy tile there, that could have been painted brick. You see what I'm saying? It may not have the same effect, but at the same time, like if your budget starts to creep up, that's when you start to take a little bit from different, you know, instead of getting a $600 light fixture, you get a $200 light fixture. So those are areas where you can kind of start to cheat back and try to make up for overages that were unforeseen, you know, in the project. That's why I said, well, hard money, man, it doesn't matter, but credit doesn't matter. Okay. I mean, but just for your own financial health, everyone, you should strive for a great credit score, you know, 650 and above. You know, that's the standard. You know, if you're looking to be bankable, some banks will even go down to 620, and I think there's some loans you can get even at 580. But you really, just for your own, you know, benefits, you want to really make sure your credit's tight. Don't overspend on frivolous things, guys. Save, pay your bills. And I know for me, when I was young, I messed my credit up. No one told me better. I went to college. I had like 5 credit cards in the first week. You know, it was a different time back then. They were real predatory. They just had tables with gifts, so you just walking through campus. Hey, just sign here. I'll give you $500. So I had a $3,000 credit limit on $3,000 across 6 credit cards, you know? And you think about it as free money when you're 18 years old, but no, definitely. Those are the kinds of things nowadays I think people are more educated on, and I think it's important that you guys really take care of that and be sure to, you know, handle your business. One more question?
Would you say that this market would be a good market to burr in, I guess?
To bird dog, find deals?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Deals are hard to come by. I mean, buying and holds are much easier to attain in this market, you know, because you're looking at the long-term view. To find deals where the short-term numbers work, it's harder and harder to do it. We're fortunate because we do have a large team and we have a large presence in the city of Boston and beyond. But definitely, ideally, you want to be able to buy stuff where you can buy it, fix it, renovate it, and refinance it. Because on the refi money, you're not paying taxes on it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You know, when you're buying and holding, you're able to save a ton on that side of the business, guys.
Would it be better for single family or multi?
Multi, absolutely, yeah. Because the more income you have generated, the more units you have, the more income you're going to be able to produce at the property, guys. So that's pretty much going to wrap up tonight. You know, one more time, I definitely want my team members to raise their hand. The Boston Trust Realty Group, guys. We got Julian back there. He's a great agent, team leader on the brokerage side. Tony's another great agent here. We got Mauricio, great commercial agent. Carl, who's also an agent and a lender. And so we got Rob Blocker in the back. He's a lender too. So feel free, guys, to definitely touch base with our team members. You know, I guess I'll leave you guys with a closing thought relative to, you know, just something that I think is super important. I'm in the process of writing my first book to really showcase a lot of the lessons that I've learned the hard way so that you guys don't have to learn them the same way. You guys can get those lessons in there, guys. But it's, you know, really understand that doing this requires skill. It requires commitment. It's not about intelligence. I mean, we're all relatively intelligent. What separates the successful from the folks who don't make it in this business is understanding what skills they need to develop, and they invest in themselves and learning those skills to really be disciplined and take a project from the beginning to the end without letting their emotions or without letting fear or without letting just, you know, things that, you know, they want to happen or they want to force get in the way. So really, you know, I encourage you to really be a student of the game, be a student of the business, and the money part will take care of itself, guys. You know, one of the things like Tony and I both agree on, especially if you're doing your first flip, seek mentorship. Like if you want to do your first flip, you know, guys like us will definitely help you. We can do it together. You know, figure out how we're going to split the profits on the first one. Because more importantly, even though you may not make all the money yourself, you're actually going to see how it's done the right way and increase your probability of success by learning from guys who have been doing this for years. And so that's definitely something I definitely would encourage all of you to adopt that mindset as you guys go out there and look to grow your business. Really appreciate everybody coming out tonight. If you haven't toured the property yet, take a tour. Any questions you have, we'll be here for a little bit to answer any questions, guys. But, you know, definitely we'll be doing this again next month and every month of this year to really showcase what we're doing, what we're working on, and sharing it with you guys in an effort to help empower your growth and help you grow your business, guys. Thank you all for coming out. We haven't scheduled it yet, but stay tuned. Yeah, if you haven't joined our growth meetup, it's our real estate growth meetup on meetup.com. That's where we'll announce the next one. I think it's going to be in JP. You know, so I have a project going on. It's called the Captain's House in Jamaica Plain. So we're going to be doing it there. It's 2 townhouses. It's a very vertical piece of construction. You guys will see what I'm talking about. It's like 500 square feet per floor on 2 floors per unit. So it's a different concept, different type of house. Crazy kind of money you'll get over there. But I think that's what we'll do the next one. But stay tuned on the website. And thank you guys for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
All right.